It's Tuesday, September 8th, 2020. I'm Greg Nibbler, and this is Digital Trends Live. Hello, everyone. This is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and thanks for joining us wherever you are. We appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button. And we're not exactly live today, but still, this is a new show. We're going to take a look back at some of our favorite interviews over the last few months. We've got some great ones here. We have had the opportunity to talk to a lot of people. But first off, we're going to talk to one of the stars of The Office. Yes, Stanley. We have Leslie David Baker here. Here it is, right here on Digital Trends Live. This is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and thank you very much for joining us. But joining us right now, we have one of the stars of The Office. You know him as Stanley Hudson, and now he is continuing this saga with a crowdfunding campaign to launch an all-new series. We have Leslie David Baker here. Hello. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Hello. Thank you for having me this morning.
There's so much excitement to talk to you right now, and I want to just start off with if you could give us kind of a surmise of what Uncle Stan is really going to be about. What is the premise of this show?
Okay, the premise of the show is it's several years after his retirement. Uncle Stan receives a call from his nephew Lucky. He's a recent widower with two small children, and he owns a bicycle repair shop. And his late wife owned a florist shop, which was attached next door. So Lucky calls his uncle, and he's having financial troubles, and he's having trouble with the kids, and he's having, all these difficulties that a new widower would have. And, he calls his uncle and says, help. And Uncle Stan comes to the rescue to help. Now, Uncle Stan is engaged, and, his fiance is unaware that he's about to make such a large move. So he makes this move and comes to try to help out and get everything in order with the Stan level of wisdom and guidance and tough love and the whole gamut. So we're tracing the character of Stan's visit several years after his retirement. As you know, to retire or go somewhere else and get tired all over again, this will give Stan an opportunity to do just that. And after sitting up, being a person of leisure, listening to old disco music and hanging out doing wood carvings for so many years, you can only have a diet of that for so long. And when an opportunity presents itself to start a new beginning, then that's what a person does. So we decided to come up with this concept because I often heard at Comic-Cons what happened to the character of Stanley, or what did he do? What was his journey? He didn't just cease to exist. Now, 7 years later, we get an opportunity to see what else does he do? What were his interests? What has become of him? He didn't cease to exist simply because he retires. And this show will speak to a lot of retirees. What happens after you leave your corporate job? What type of life do you have? Do your wishes, hopes, dreams, ambitions, do they change? Do they evolve? Of course they do. So we get a chance to see this through the character of Stan.
Well, I think you brought up a good point there with Comic-Con and just people talking about Stanley and your character, because it's so beloved. Everybody loved those characters on The Office, and they want to know more. And I'm curious for you, if you can think of any other series, that's been able to create so much content years afterwards, because you have a couple of podcasts. You got Brian Baumgartner's An Oral History of The Office, which is going to be coming out. You got Office Ladies, Angela Kinsey and Jenna Fisher. Is there any other show you can think of that inspired so many people to create these things years after the series ended?
Not really, because I think The Office was so unique in that there was such a wide array of characters, a wide variety of America represented by the show, that everybody had an opportunity who watched the show to see somebody that they identified with, they either worked with, went to church, school with. These characters are so ingrained within our society that you can't help but wonder, what's the next generation going to see? What are they going to have to say about these characters? How are they going to relate to these characters? We represent the working class of America. We represent the parents of the working class of America. Their children are going to look at what we've done on The Office, and they're going to say, I wonder, is that what corporate America really is like? Is that what it represents? What are we going to do after that? What happens after that? So we move on with this one particular character that we may not have seen all of the insights during the initial show, and we get to go to Stanley, what happens after that? Stan 2.0. Again, what are his wishes, hopes, dreams, ambitions? How do his goals shift as he enters his, quote, golden years? You don't just go home and die. And since the spirit of The Office will never die, the spirit of these characters will never die. So we look forward and see what happens.
When it comes to these characters, in particular Stanley Hudson, I wanted to ask a question of you. What do you think is the one piece of tech that Stanley would not be able to live without?
The one piece of tech. I think that we start to find out that Uncle Stan likes his cell phone. And you would think that having worked in an office setting for that many years, that he wouldn't like that, but he likes his iPhone because it allows him to have a window to the world right in his pocket, and it can go anywhere with him. So,
I think that's great because I just remember his computer getting replaced. A couple other questions here for you with this when it comes to this character, and just such a beloved character, and obviously you're recognized everywhere. What is the one quote that people say to you the most when it comes to the character of Stanley Hudson?
Actually, there are two. Boy, Have You Lost Your Mind, which is one that I wrote when we were doing that particular episode, when BJ, I thought he was trying to pursue my daughter, and Did I Stutter? Those are the two.
Yes. Another question here. We've got our Riley Wynn, who is one of our co-workers here at Digital Trends.
I'm listening a little
fan.
bit because there's a helicopter flying over. I don't know who they're looking for, what they're looking for, but
well, just stay live, and
it's live and they're live. As long as it stays in the air, I'm happy.
Okay, we'll cut away if we need to. Okay, so our Riley Wynn's one of my coworkers here at Digital Trends, and he's a huge Office fan, and he had a couple of questions he wanted me to ask. So I want to get these in. One was, how many crossword puzzles do you think you actually finished while working on the show?
That I actually finished? I don't think I actually ever finished any, because after you hold that paper in your hand for so long, it gets kind of, it's not the greatest quality in terms of the actual inside of it. So it gets sweaty, it gets wrinkled, it gets mushy. And after a while, it looks kind of ugly on camera. So I probably went through over, in a 9-year period, I would say it was well over a couple of dozen, I would imagine.
That were actually finished. A couple of dozen actually.
Well, no,
through.
Nothing was ever actually finished from beginning
nothing ever
to
finished,
end, but that were used. So probably a couple of dozen.
One other question here for you. Now, Pretzel Day obviously is a favorite for all of the fans of The Office. But for Leslie David Baker, what do you put on your pretzel?
Oh, anything with chocolate and caramel and pecans, that type of thing.
Chocolate, caramel, pecans. So there we go.
Yes.
Well, we've got Leslie David Baker. I'm not sure if... Okay, still got you. So I want to say thank you so much for joining us here on the show. I know that the helicopters are flying overhead. But before they get there, just to tell everybody really quick, could you let everybody know what they can do to help make Uncle Stan happen?
What you can do is go to the UncleStanTheShow.com, and you'll see it on your screen at the bottom. Go to UncleStanTheShow.com, and you will see what you can do in terms of participating to help get this show back on the air, so that you can see the journey of Uncle Stan and his nephew Lucky and his little niece and nephew and his girlfriend and the biker shop. And, please, we ask you, donate. We're a part of television history. We want to continue to be a part of your lives and bring this story and the continuation of Uncle Stan into your lives. So we look forward to hearing from you, and tell people about it, donate, and we'll hopefully get on the air.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us today on Digital Trends Live. Appreciate it so much. You're incredible, and we love the character. I would love to see more, and I want to see this happen. And thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. If you want to see more, you know what to do, and we will provide it for you.
Continuing on with this special Best Of edition of Digital Trends Live, taking a look back at some of our favorite interviews. One of the things we've been very fortunate to do here on this show is to get to speak to actual astronauts, and that's what this next one is. It's Christina Koch right here on Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Again, thanks for joining us. Hit that subscribe button because every day we have something exciting to talk about here on the show, and I appreciate everybody who joins this. And right now, I am excited because we get to talk about space and the really great things that NASA has planned, some explorations to the moon, some scientific studies that happen up there. And to talk about that, we've got Christina Koch joining us right now. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Greg. Great to be with you.
Christina, I want to talk about a lot of the scientific studies that you conducted up there, but certainly the Artemis project has people very excited, the Artemis program to go back to the moon. And with this lofty goal of 2024 of landing 2 people back on there, and I want to get your opinion on this with everything kind of getting delayed a little bit. Do you think we're still going to be able to hit that time?
Yes, it is such an exciting time, and as excited as you and your viewers are, I must be even more excited. It's a great time to be involved in the human spaceflight program with the Artemis mission. And absolutely, NASA can get to the moon by 2024. It's a bold goal, but I think bold goals actually, bring about innovative ways of doing business, and that's just what I'm seeing as NASA pushes forward towards returning to the moon. So couldn't be more excited.
Something I want to ask you on the technological side of things, just as we see things advance. What kind of a role do you think robotics and artificial intelligence will play in these Artemis missions to the moon?
Well, certainly one of the most exciting areas that we see that type of work in is in the automated landing sequences and automated docking. In the past, the actual landing on the moon was done by the pilots, and so they trained a lot for that. And interestingly, that actually limited both when we could go to the moon and the different places where we could land. So having that system automated actually opens up the world or opens up the moon in a whole new way. We can go at a much larger range of dates. We don't have to worry about the sun angle and being able to see perfectly on the surface of the moon. And that means that we can land in a number of different places in a number of different times. So it's an exciting time to be incorporating those technologies into our systems and seeing what it can do for us in terms of exploitation. So creating a sustainable presence where we can take advantage of everything the moon has to offer, use those technologies to go even deeper onto Mars.
What do you think are going to be, you've spent so much time in space, obviously with a record-setting amount for the ISS, 328 days, want to make sure I got it right, which is incredible. What are some of the biggest challenges you think that we'll have just for humans, for daily life living on the moon? What kinds of obstacles will humans need to overcome?
Well, I'd say the biggest takeaway for me from being on board the space station for 11 months was that long-duration human spaceflight is possible. It's possible for humans to thrive in microgravity. And of course, on the moon, we actually have a little bit of gravity, 1/6 of what we see on the Earth. So I think that actually makes it even more doable. Just that little bit of gravity means that some of our systems can actually, utilize gravity and be a little bit more Earth-like in their design, which helps the whole process. I think NASA's really good at understanding what humans need, both physically and mentally, to survive and thrive and be successful in long-duration spaceflight. And we're learning that from our studies on board the space station. We're learning everything about how to go deeper into space in the missions that we have right now. And that's in addition to all the great science that we're doing to benefit Earth in the present that's going on the International Space Station. So to me, my time in space has taught me that the future of human space exploration is bright.
Well, and with that time up there, you mentioned the scientific experiments, which obviously are going on all the time. For you during that 11 months, I can't imagine how many different projects you were working on, but are there any that really stood out as kind of your personal favorites?
Well, you're right. There were hundreds that I had the honor of working on. And, though I'm a physical sciences person, so some of the physical science things that we're doing to sort of probe the fundamentals of a lot of processes are some of the ones that interest me personally the most. But the ones that were most meaningful to me are the ones that have such tangible benefits coming back to Earth. And a lot of those were in pharmaceutical research. A lot of people don't know that microgravity actually enables us to do research on potential cures for cancer, cures for Alzheimer's and Parkinson's that we cannot do on the Earth, because we can study proteins through protein crystal growth in a way in microgravity that we can't do on Earth. So seeing for the first time with my eyes through a microscope protein crystals that researchers on Earth have never seen before was a really special moment during my flight I'll never forget.
Something I wanted to ask that just came out today, and it's going back to the Artemis project, and this is a competition that NASA announced, which is a competition for people to submit designs for essentially a space toilet, which is something that would be important on the moon. For those people who are submitting their designs, do you have any recommendations on things they should consider?
You hit on something that goes back to something I said earlier, which is that with 1/6 gravity, you can actually use that to rely on just a little bit. And I would say that's a great example. On board the space station, we actually have to create a motive force for, human waste with a vacuum system. I would say something that's ease of use that can clean up quickly is really important, and something that, multiple people can get in and get out and get on with their day on to doing the science and the work that we're doing up there. That's probably the most important.
Nice. Well, Christina, thank you very much for being here. I do want to say, too, I watched the video of you returning to your dog over and over because it was so hilarious and awesome. How's the dog doing?
Sadie is doing great. With stay at home, I feel like we're bonded more than ever. We had to spend about 11 months apart, but now we get to spend every single day together. She's awesome. I missed her a lot when I was in space. And yeah, that reuniting with her was a pretty special moment for me, too. Thanks for watching.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it was great. Christina, well, thank you very much for being here with us, too. And where would you recommend people go to find out more about, the Artemis project and just everything else that's going on with NASA?
Absolutely. You can Google it, obviously. NASA's website has amazing resources. And for the stay at home that we're all doing right now, if you're looking for something for your kids over summer, NASA STEM at Home has some great resources.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Seriously, I really, really appreciate it. Love talking about this and love everything that you're doing. Thanks for being here on Digital Trends Live.
Thank you, Greg. It's been my pleasure.
All right, thanks everyone for joining us here on this special edition of Digital Trends Live. Hit that subscribe button because you do not want to miss the kind of people that we get to talk to here on this show every single day. And that includes people like Andrew Yang. He needs no introduction. Let's just roll it right now. It's Andrew Yang on Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thank you very much for joining us. Hit that subscribe button wherever you are so you can join the show here every day for the great conversations that we get to have. And I am looking forward to this next one. But let me ask you a question. How would you like to get paid for your personal data? Well, that's something that could be a possibility in association with the Data Dividend Project, a new program that has been launched to establish and enforce data property rights. And to talk about this, we have the founder and the person who launched this, former presidential candidate, Andrew Yang, joining us right now. Andrew, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me. Let's get people money for your data. Let's do it. It's worth tens of billions of dollars, and we're not seeing a dime. What's up with that?
Right. Well, that's what I want to talk about, too. I mean, personal data is something that we've been talking about for a long time and about how important that is and how companies are making so much money. Facebook, Google, just to name a couple of them. So how would this work? How would consumers get some of that money back?
The great change in the regulatory framework was that California passed the CCPA and went into effect this year. And under the CCPA, everyone in California has the right to know what they're doing with their data, the right to opt out, and potentially even the right to turn it off. So this is an incredibly powerful set of rights. So if you sign up for the Data Dividend Project at ddpforall.com, we will activate your data rights in California and Nevada, where they already have rules on the books. And if you're not in one of those states, then we will go to your state house and say, hey, you should have a law on the books like California and Nevada. And we will also let you know if there are any data breach claims that you're entitled to compensation for, because there are actually these successful lawsuits that most people just don't hear about. But in many cases, you're owed money.
So when it comes to tracking somebody's personal data like this, how would that actually work with the companies that you're I mean, I guess not necessarily targeting, but the big companies that are using all this data? How would you keep track of that?
Well, that is the big question, is who's keeping track of that? And so if you go to Facebook, let's use Facebook because we all understand it. $650 billion company, revenue in the tens of billions of dollars. Most of that is from our data. And so now under these new rules, Facebook has to tell you what they've been doing with your data, who has been sold to, resold, how it's been packaged. And so we can go to them and say, hey, look, like, let us know what the heck is going on. And then they have a set of choices. So this is brand new. This law literally went into effect the beginning of this year and starts getting enforced next week. So instead of being a black box, these companies should say, look, people's data is still theirs, even if we have access to it through this, this consent agreement. And so we have to come clean with what we're doing with your data. And that's what the Data Dividend Project is all about, is activating people's data property rights so that we can get a straight answer from the tech companies.
When you look at something like this California law, so the California Consumer Privacy Act, like you said, that was just passed earlier this year, that's just in that one state. So that, I would think, would cause some issues when it comes to regulations as far as other states. Do you see the need for a national or federal policy that would be similar to this?
Congress should be following California's lead, but one thing I'm happy to say is that state houses around the country are already considering this legislation. New York, Washington State, Nevada, and California already have it. And if you're a state legislator, you're looking at this saying, wait a minute, why do people in California and Nevada have rights that we don't have here in Massachusetts? And like, what's the upside? My people are happy and love me. What's the downside? Nothing. So you can see that these state houses are all going to follow California and Nevada's lead. And that's one of the things that the Data Dividend Project is committed to activating around the country.
When you look at this, if this were all to be enacted feasibly exactly how you want it, what are we talking about, like actual money would somebody see? How would somebody be paid for their data, or how much do you think it would be?
Well, you're not going to believe it, but if you sign up for ddpforall.com, like, there's a chance we can get you money in a matter of days and weeks right now. And certainly, if you fast forward, how much money is your data worth? You can just look at the revenues of the Facebooks and the Googles, tens of billions of dollars a year. For each individual, there's a range. It can be something like minimum tens of dollars a month, but depending upon who you are, it can be up to thousands of dollars a month. So the question is, how are we going to determine and unlock that value?
It's definitely exciting. I mean, I think something that a lot of people will be interested in. I mean, we all want control of our data, I feel like, is a big thing that a lot of people want. Something else I want to talk to you just about, with your recent presidential run, there seems to be always this disconnect between Silicon Valley and Washington going back and forth. And for you, you obviously have a very good grasp on the tech industry, and a lot of your policies reflect that. Do you see a role for yourself going forward in Washington in a more official capacity?
I couldn't agree with you more that Washington, D.C. is decades behind the curve on technology. And it's gone from being inconvenient to disastrous over time. So one of my big goals is to try and catch them up. And that's a very tall order. Like, it may not be possible for any one individual to somehow drag Washington, D.C. into the 21st century, but we have to do it. We have to try, and that's certainly something I'm committed to.
Looking at this going forward, too, as we see kind of the election unfold, you got Trump, you've got Biden, and obviously there's a lot going on in the world right now that's affecting all kinds of different things. And just curious to get your opinion, being somebody who was running for this, who do you think would be the ideal vice presidential choice for Joe Biden?
No, it's a really personal decision on Joe's part. He knows that because he's been VP for 8 years. So you have to have the right trust and relationship with your partner in governing. And so it's an unanswerable question unless you're Joe Biden, honestly, because that chemistry is going to be really, really important. But I know that Kamala Harris is one of the front runners. I've become friends with Kamala on the trail, and she's a tremendous individual.
And that's a great answer on that. Andrew, I do want to ask you something else because I know you posted this on Twitter as well. You're a sports fan. Obviously, we haven't had a whole lot of sports here that's been going on, but we're seeing some of these leagues start back up. So which sport are you most looking forward to watching here as they open back up?
Well, I'm a big NBA fan. I just did a podcast with JJ Redick, who's a great guy. And, so I'd have to say the NBA, but you have to also have some caution or reservation because Florida, unfortunately, is one of these new epicenters where they're seeing surges in positive test rates, and that's where all players are going. And so the question is, can you set up a bubble in Orlando that keeps people safe and lets us all enjoy NBA games again?
I want to say thank you very much for joining us here. I did have one final question just about social media and some of the different things that are going on with that. As we see Twitter, how they're kind of regulating or taking a look at different tweets and flagging them. Then you have Facebook, who's not doing that. Do you feel that social media should take a more active role in moderating content on the sites?
I think Facebook saying that they're a platform, not a publisher, is nonsense. They're literally the biggest publisher in the world at this point. And so they should be held to some kind of standards the same way that a cable network or like other traditional media company is. So I think that you have to take responsibility. You're one of the biggest, richest companies in the world. Like, you have to start actually having some kind of standards. And hopefully they'll see that. I mean, they're not a scrappy startup anymore. They're one of the biggest companies in the world.
Well, Andrew, I want to say, like I said, thank you very much. I want to remind everybody too, so the Data Dividend Project, so people can go there now, sign up.
Yes, get that Data Dividend, check. DDPforall.com, thank you. Or just Google Data Dividend. Yeah, who doesn't want this? What is the downside? We're going to try and take back what should be ours in the first place. Our data is our property.
Fantastic. Andrew Yang, thank you very much for being here, sir. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Great seeing you. Stay safe. Thanks, man.
And thank you, everyone out there, for joining us on this special edition of Digital Trends Live, taking a look at some of our favorite interviews, but we've had a lot of them, and that's why you want to hit that subscribe button. You want to share the show. You want to let other people know about it, because we are here for you every single weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you those trending tech headlines, news, interviews, discussions, and more that you need to get through the day. So thanks for joining us. I'm Greg Nibbler. I'll see you right back here tomorrow with another edition of Digital Trends Live.